Thank you for being with us this evening. Um, so I'm Tammy, and I want to tell you my story about becoming an activist, a political conservative activist, how I got there. So I'll take you through my journey, and we'll get to the World Zionist Organization and what that is, you know, through. Through my journey. But I like to start with talking about myself because that's what every good feminist needs to do. I want to start with me and say that this is me in the picture, the little boyish looking young girl. I'm one of these unique Israeli born and raised conservative Jews. Not many people, definitely when I grew up in Israel, not many girls my age had bat mitzvot. But I grew up in a family that it was a conservative liberal Jewish family from beginning, an Israeli liberal family from the beginning. And I'm saying this because I grew up with the surrounding of knowing that being a liberal Jew in Israel is being a minority. I used to go to Noam youth movement that you obviously know, and what youth movements do is try growing you to be an activist. And me as an activist in Noam as a young person, what we fought for was for pluralism in the relationship in state and religion in Israel. Because right now, or right then when I grew up, or from the establishment of Israel, the only way to be Jewish in Israel, the only bureaucratical way to be Jewish is the Orthodox way. You can only get married in one way. You can only there's only one kashrut supervision. There's only one way to be buried in a bureaucratical way. Even the rabbi in this photo, who was called Arav Avidor Cohen, he's actually kind of famous, but he used to be an Orthodox rabbi, and he moved to our synagogue a few years before my bat mitzvah. This picture is black and white, not because I'm that old, but because it was published in a newspaper in Israel. They were doing a story about him and his transformation from the Orthodoxy to conservative Judaism. And when this picture was published in the newspaper, his right to conduct marriage ceremonies was revoked because you don't do, my boyish look didn't confuse them, and they understood that he's doing bat mitzvot for girls, so they revoked his right to do wedding ceremonies in Israel. So growing up in this atmosphere, I think I became, because of this, activists for straight and religion. So when I'll stop sharing so you can see me. When I was released from the army, when I became an adult, I went into the army. I was a combat soldier in the army, and when I finished my army service, I started working in Noam, the youth movement of the conservative movement. And I remember waking up one morning in 2008. I was working as a senior staff member in Noam, and I heard in the news that a woman was arrested in the Kotel, in the Western Wall, for having her talit on, for praying with a talit. And I understood that this is my fight to fight, that no one is going to fight this for me, for us. And I decided to join Women of the Wall, and I've been a member of Women of the Wall ever since. Women of the Wall, I'll say it in fast forward, but I invite you to to have another talk about Women of the Wall. But Women of the Wall is a group of women from all denominations. I'll put another photo because it's nice. Women from all denominations, Reform, conservative, and Orthodox women that pray together in the Western Wall in the women's section. The first prayer was in the women's section, and that's what we do. That's what our kehillah, what our congregation does. We pray in the women's section of the Western Wall as a women's minyan out loud. We want to pray with a Torah scroll. We want to pray with a talit. We want to pray with tefillin. That's what we do. Unfortunately, from the first prayer in 1988, okay, 37 years ago, I wasn't a member then, but from that first prayer till today, it's still a dramatic event. Apparently, having women's voices heard, that was the first dramatic event was hearing women's voices in the women's section of the Western Wall. And with the years, it became, it became other the voices became something that was more of a consensus. Today, if you come to the Western Wall, you might hear women singing and praying, not just women of the wall, but just groups of women. But with the years, the prayer of women of the wall became a problem to both authorities and people praying around us, because of the way that we pray, which is, again, sometimes with some of us with talit, some of us with tefillin, and with a Torah scroll. So obviously, people, there are two groups that oppose to us or that we have controversy with. The first is other people, Orthodox, conservative, small c conservative Orthodox, up to Haredim, up to very ultra Orthodox, that fight us because they don't think it's okay for a woman to be seen the way that you see us here in this photo. So they attack, they yell, they curse, and they're also very, very violent at times. I'm sure some of you have been with us. Has any of you? I know Rabbi Giza has been with us, but I'm sure others have also been. So so Leah has also been. You see you feel the hate, and sometimes you even physically hear it, feel it, because we've all, women of the wall have been physically attacked many times. So in a democracy, what you do when you're being attacked for something that you're doing that is okay is that you go to authorities. Unfortunately, authorities are the second group in conflict with women of the wall, and for many, many years, authorities haven't helped us. And all the 90s were the trying of women of the wall to come, and then the authorities removing them, saying that they're creating a public disturbance by being there. Okay, woman voice talit is creating a public disturbance, and that's what we're trying to fight in the Israeli public, because this concept, and this is, I think, one of the reasons that I am part of Women of the Wall, that there's only one legitimate way to be Jewish in Israel. Okay, the Jewish state is the only country in the Western world where Jews don't have Jewish freedom. That's something that needs to be, we need to fight against. So we need to fight against in any way that is possible. So I started my activism by being a part of Women of the Wall. But a few years ago, I understood I want to broaden my activist experience. And I joined the World Zionist Congress as a member of Merkaz. I joined the World Zionist, I'm in the executive of the World Zionist Organization. So a whole different world of content of how to create a difference. I'll show you a picture and I'll ask you questions. You can unmute yourself, I think, unless this is a dictatorship Zoom, but I think we're okay. Where do you think this photo is from? Or does anyone know? Have any idea where? This is really black and white, not like mine from my bat mitzvah. I see some of you are trying to say something, but we can't hear you. Just unmute yourself and then.
First Zionist Congress, Basel, 1890.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the first
very good.
conference in Basel. Yeah.
So you see lots of white men, that's how history was made. So also our history. the first World Zionist Congress. You can see Herzl. Herzl is here in the mid left of the photo. Herzl had an amazing idea with the World Zionist Congress. And now Herzl wasn't the first Zionist, okay? There were Zionists before Herzl. There were people that were in the land of Israel, working the land of Israel before Herzl came up with the idea of the World Zionist Congress. But what Herzl did with the World Zionist Congress was pivotal in two major aspects. First of all, what he did was to create a people. Okay, he bought delegates from all over the world. He invited delegates, he invited people that he knew were the head of the Jewish communities in different places in the world. And he brought them together. He created an umbrella of the Jewish people, which is something that didn't exist till Herzl came up with the World Zionist Congress. He put in one room in Basel in Switzerland 500 people from different places around the world to come and discuss and to be a people. So the Jews in Germany, for the Jews in Berlin, can hear the voices of the Jews in London and could hear the voices of the Jews in New York. And that was something very, very unique in that time. And that is what the World Zionist Congress is till today. It's the umbrella of the Jewish people. It's what brings us, this is the body that keeps us together, that keeps us one. The second thing that Herzl did, which is also crucial for the Zionist movement till today, is that Herzl politicized the Zionist movement. He sent the people back from the first World Zionist Congress. He sent the people back. He told them, now you go back to your countries, and next year, the second Congress, you have to be elected officials. You go back to your countries. You build federations in each country where you live. You build a federation. And next time you come here, you are going to be, or you or other people from your country need to be voted officials from your countries. So starting the Second World Zionist Congress in 1898, the World Zionist Congress, the government of the Jewish people, okay, this is what this body is till today. It's the government of the Jewish people, is a democracy and is a political entity. And that's what the World Zionist Congress stands for till today. The whole idea of the World Zionist Congress is to look at the Jewish people as one, see what the goals or what the challenges are in a specific time in history, and help the Jewish people in all the different places, fulfill the goals or to fight the struggles at the same moment. So if in the beginning of the World Zionist Congress, just an anecdote, starting the second elections to federations in the World Zionist Congress, women were allowed to vote and be voted. Okay, so it's one of the first democratic entities in the world that allowed women to vote. I think in the United States it was 1922. The suffragists and their struggle. In Switzerland, it was 1972. I don't know when in Germany.
Right.
When was it in Germany? Do you know? When were women allowed to vote in Germany? Okay, that's a cool trivia fact that you can all check. I'm sure it wasn't much before that, even if it was very, very forward. So that's just an anecdote. But saying that the World Zionist Congress looks at the struggles and the goals of the Jewish people in any certain time means that in the beginning of the 20th century, okay, in the first years of the 1900 plus, what the World Zionist Congress did was to try and create a state for the Jewish people. That was one of the understandings that the Congress came to that the Jewish people need a country, preferably in Eretz Israel, preferably here, and that's what they worked for all the first decades of the World Zionist Congress. So one of the first things that they did to be able to do this was to create 1918. Cool. So one of the first things that they did was to create Keren Kayemet LiYisrael, Kakal, today known as the JNF. I don't know what it's known as in Germany. It's Keren Kayemet LiYisrael. They created a body under the umbrella of the World Zionist Congress. They created a body that one of its goals was to buy land in the state of Israel in order for the future state of Israel to be able to use those lands. So in 1903 or 4, Kakal was established, and then they started putting the little blue boxes that I'm sure all of you have or had in your schools and in your synagogues. And your parents and your grandparents put money in these blue boxes, and these blue boxes bought land in the state of Israel. So today, the state of Israel is 17% owned by Keren Kayemet LiYisrael, by Kakal, because of the money that your parents and grandparents put in the blue boxes. Kakal bought 17% of the state of Israel. Now, this Kakal is a body that belongs to the World Zionist Congress. So this 17% of the land of Israel belongs to the World Zionist Congress. It belongs to us, Jewish people, not to us, Israeli people, to the Jewish people around the world. It's an asset of the Jewish people around the world. The revenue of 17% of the state of Israel is $2 billion a year. Okay, so I'll start with assets and say that the World Zionist Congress, one of the strongest assets that it has is financial assets coming from the revenue of 17% of the state of the land of Israel that comes in every year. So every year, the Jewish world has $2 billion to maintain itself, to make sure that we fulfill our goals again in the certain time in history that we need to fulfill our goals. We use that budget in order to make sure that our goals are fulfilled. Now, what are the goals of the Jewish people? So I'll say, in the establishment of Israel in 1948, the World Zionist Congress had to decide, are we going to is this going to go on, or now that there's the state of Israel, we don't need the World Zionist Congress anymore? And the understanding was that we need the World Zionist Congress because not all Zionists, as you all very well know, not all Zionists live in Zion, live in Israel. Not all Jews live in Israel, and we still need this body that will be the government or the umbrella that brings us together as Jews around the world. So the goals might have changed after 48, but it still stayed a form that brings us all together. And there are all sorts of different goals. So maybe sometimes the goals are to strengthen, to many times the budget, the resources go to schools and to synagogues in order to strengthen Jewish communities around the world, also in Israel, but also around the world. And then the question is, what schools does the budget go to? What kind of Jews does the budget go to? And because the World Zionist Congress is a pluralistic, liberal body that represents Jews from all over the world, that represents the voice of Jews from all over the world, we as a conservative movement are represented in the World Zionist Congress, and we are the voice of liberal Judaism. We make sure that liberal Judaism is heard when we are distributing resources, financial and not financial. I'll get to the non-financial soon, but the idea is to maintain this concept that has been running the World Zionist Congress from the first day, that there are different ways of being Jewish, and we're one way, and that's why we're a party in the World Zionist Congress to make sure that our voice as liberal Jews is also heard. So I want to give an example to how the World Zionist Congress runs in the idea of how it spends its or decides towards its assets. And I think that the Jewish people post October 7th is a good example. So we started our term, there was a World Zionist Congress in 2020, and there was a decision of goals and purposes and what we need to strengthen in the Jewish people, and then there was the war. And we convened together, the World Zionist Congress convened together, all the people from all the different parties, to try to understand how we shift the goals of the Jewish people for what is going over the Jewish people. Now, when I say what is going over the Jewish people, one of the decisions was that we're going to put a lot of budget into, or a lot of resources into, strengthening or rebuilding the Gaza envelope and the cities of Israel in the north that were destroyed in the war after October 7th. And that was one of the decisions, and it works. I was in Chatzerim a few months ago. Chatzerim is a kibbutz in the south of Israel that wasn't affected directly by October 7th. It's a bit north in the south. It's not enough in the Gaza envelope, but the World Zionist Congress is right now helping to budget the new neighborhood of Be'eri, of the people of Be'eri, which was a kibbutz that was dramatically affected in October 7th, that was massacred dramatically. I think something like a quarter of their members were murdered on October 7th. And they are now, I think on October 2024, Chatzerim opened a new neighborhood that has 800 temporary homes, homes that they bring on wheel for the members of Be'eri to stay there till they rebuild their kibbutz. Now, this is something that us are funding, that we are lucky enough to be part of, that we can help to help our brothers and sisters that way. But the aftermath of October 7th wasn't only in Israel, as you very well know, and as our brothers and sisters in the United States and in Australia and in South America know. There was an increase of anti-Semitism that was a dramatic event that the Jewish people knew that we were going towards, but then October 7th changed everything. And the World Zionist Congress is now putting in resources, again, also financial, but not only, to make sure to see how we can, decrease anti-Semitism, or how we can, first of all, protect Jewish communities around the world with security or whatever Jewish communities need, but also how we educate people around the world and how we try to stop the anti-Semitism in its growth. So I was talking about resources that are not only financial resources. Another body that was established under the World Zionist Congress, that belongs to the World Zionist Congress, is the Jewish Agency. The Jewish Agency, I'm sure some of you have heard, one of the things that the Jewish Agency does is maintain shlichim, ambassadors that go to different places in the world. I'm sure do you have shlichim in Berlin? I'm guessing you do. People that go and do a Jewish education and Zionist education around the world. Now, one of the concepts that the World Zionist Congress and the Jewish Agency have to deal with now is to understand, where do we send the shlichim in the next term? Maybe they need to go more to universities than they did in the past, and maybe the work with the public needs to be not only with the Jewish public, but with, educating students in campuses, not only in the Hillel houses, but also in other fraternities. I don't know what it's called, but talking to other students and educating non-Jews in order to try and prevent or to stop the anti-Semitism. So that is how the World Zionist Congress works. Our voice in the World Zionist Congress is crucial because, as I said in the beginning, the state of Israel has this abnormal issue about being a Jewish Orthodox state. And we want to make sure that the World Zionist Congress doesn't go in that direction of Israel, and that it does the most it can to help Israel to help us liberal Jews in Israel fight this fight to make Israel better, to make Israel a more liberal, open place that also accepts us. This means that part of these funding, the part of the resources are also go to the conservative movement in Israel. The part of the budget of the World Zionist Congress goes to the Masorti movement in Israel that doesn't get a budget from the state of Israel, but it gets a budget from the government of the Jewish people, not from the government of the Israeli people, but the government of the Jewish people. And that is very helpful for the conservative movement in Israel that, obviously they need it's always helpful for them to grow. The conservative movement, the reform movement only get money. There is a little budget that they get from the Israeli government with Ministry of Cultural Affairs, but not as a stream, not as a Jewish stream, and that's something that we in the World Zionist Congress are able to give the Israeli liberal movements, not only the Israeli, but it's crucial in Israel. The other issue is that, as in many democracies in the past few years, there is this attempt for different bodies around the political system, or extreme voices around the political system, to infiltrate the democratic system in order to make it more conservative, like with a small c, conservative. And that's something that is also happening in the world, like in our government, in the government of the Jewish people. One of the basic rules of the World Zionist Congress is that you need to be a Zionist to vote or to be voted in. And for many years, the ultra-Orthodox Haredi parties weren't part of the game. They weren't willing to call themselves Zionists in order to be part of the Zionist discourse. And I think 10 years ago, Shas party, which is an Israeli party for ultra-Orthodox Sephardi Jews, decided to join the World Zionist Congress, understanding that there's a lot of, again, budgets, but resources that they're not getting part of. So they built a party and they joined. And 5 years later, in the elections in 2020, Ashkenazi party came in called Eretz HaKodesh. And they, in 2020, had a dramatic success. They only ran in the United States 5 years ago. They were able, I'll say like in large, okay? The votes for the 500, to date 525 delegates for the World Zionist Congress, a third come from Israel. When we vote for the Israeli Knesset, we vote for our representatives in the World Zionist Congress. So it's the Israeli parties, Meretz and Yesh Atid and Likud, and so they get voted. So we only vote once for the Israeli Knesset. And the other third of the votes comes from the United States, because these are the two largest Jewish populations in the world. Probably both 8 million Jews, something like that. They're saying that the United States has already passed Israel. The other third is the whole other, all the world is the other third is, I think, 160, 170 delegates are divided into the different populations of Jewish places around the world. And that's how each place has their own election. So now there's elections in Germany. We'll get to that in a moment. I just want to say that in the last elections in the United States, again, that have 150 delegates to vote, we had 15,000 people voting for the conservative movement. They came in the first time and they had 20,000 people voting. Now, the problem with this isn't that they came into the political Zionist discourse. We are, we're okay. We understand that the World Zionist Congress is the voice of all Jews, and that ultra-Orthodox Jews should also be represented if they consider themselves Zionist, and they do. The problem is that the feeling, and I'm saying this firsthand, is that they bought this discourse that I feel in the Kotel every month, the violent discourse. They bought it into the World Zionist Congress that up to now was a political entity, okay, and politics are always a bit dirty, but they made it dirty. They made it mean. We have the ultra orthodox yelling at us. They've brought the dialogue in the rooms to the same dialogue again that I hear in the Kotel, to and talk about the crazy liberals as if it's something that is destroying the Jewish people, to talk about the conservative and reform movement as one of the worst things, as Amalek, as things that have to be destroyed in the Jewish people. And we want to make sure, it's a critical moment. We have to make sure that we are represented in order to not let them demolish us, to not let them erase us, because we are a critical, huge part of the Jewish people around the world. We liberal Jews, conservative, reform Jews, we are most of the Jews around the world. And it's okay, again, that Haredim are part of the game, but we want to make sure that they're represented according to their size in the population. And that also that with their size, they can't make decisions, or they can't make changes in the World Zionist Congress that might affect us. So I said that one of the bodies is the Jewish Agency. Okay, this is a good example. The Jewish Agency is also in charge of Shlichim, is also in charge of Aliyah. In 1948 was the first, one of the first laws that was passed in the state of Israel was the law of return, Chok HaShvut. Any person that comes from a Jewish background can come to Israel and be an Israeli citizen according to the law of return. Okay, so if a member of your congregation, because the Jewish Agency is in charge of Aliyah, so Aliyah is in the hands of the Jewish Agency. Who's a Jew? The determination of who's a Jew is in the hands of the Jewish Agency. So if someone from your congregation in Germany was to have a conversion in Germany, okay, by Rabbi Giza, and Rabbi Giza signed her conversion certificate, this person would be eligible to come to Israel according to the law of return, because this is in the hand of the Jewish Agency, that is still a liberal body that we are represented in according to what we were voted into the World Zionist Congress, and that's the way things are today. The same person, if she were to have a conversion in the synagogue I grew up in Rehovot, wouldn't be eligible to be a citizen in the state of Israel, because this is in the hands of the Jewish state, and this is in the hand of the Jewish people, this is in the hand of the Israeli state, and this is in the hand of the Jewish government, okay? And we want to make sure that the World Zionist Congress doesn't become the state of Israel in the aspect of pluralism, of Jewish pluralism. We want to make sure that it stays a liberal body, that when assets are given away, they're given away equally or according to size of Jewish denomination, that when we give money to schools and to youth movements and to summer camps, we do it according to our size in the world, and we give money to Noam and to the Rabbinical Assembly and to Ramah camps and synagogues around the whole world, as the Reform synagogues and youth movements and summer camps get, and as the Orthodox, the modern Orthodox, and even as the ultra-Orthodox get, but in, again, understanding that there are different kinds of Jews around the world. And that's something that, again, the state of Israel still needs help understanding, and that the the World Zionist Congress is the way to show the state of Israel. So, as I said, the other third of votes is from around the world. There were already elections in the United States, which are again, it's the largest elections. They take 8 weeks. They finished 2 months ago, 1 month ago, or a month and a half ago. And then all the rest of the world started elections, and now elections are going on in Germany. So the federation, in the German Jewish Federation, what they do is that you register as a member of the federation in Germany, and then there's elections next week. No, in 2 weeks, in 13, 14, I think. Never mind the dates. You will be told the dates, but you can only vote if you registered this week. The registration is till the 4th of July. You need to be a registered person in the German Federation in order to be able to vote in the German Jewish elections. So we need you to vote. We need you to register, and we need you to vote, because we need to make sure, again, that the delegates that are sent from Germany are representing the Jewish people of Germany, from all the places, from all the colors and denominations that you come from. But we do not want to be, to be looked over in Germany. Germany doesn't have a lot of mandates, but we have a good chance of being elected as one, and we want to make sure that we do our best to make sure that our voices are heard. So right now there is the registration. We'll put now in the chat. Gal will put the link to registration. Who is already registered? Okay, so we still have many of you that need to register. You can actually do it now. It's an online form. It's very easy. Do they need to pay, Nili? Yeah.
Yes.
Now,
You should pay the shekel tzioni is a symbolic fee, a reminder of things that happened in the first Zionist Congress, and the payment is actually goes via Masorti Germany. We'll write the details in the chat right now.
so the idea of payment is also the shekel hatzioni. It's also machatzit shekel. It's also to make sure that, because basically what you're doing is you're registering to be part of the German Jewish Federation. Okay, you're now becoming a member of the German Jewish Federation, and then you have a right to choose in the elections. It's a very easy process, and then you have till the 4th of July. Register now, okay? But you have till the 4th of July to convince other people to register. Soon I'll say something about that. And then a week later, you'll get an email that the voting has started. You go into the voting form, you choose Merkaz. That's what we're called, Merkaz. Do we know what slate we are? Like what number? We don't know what number we're going to be in the list, but we're called Merkaz. You vote Merkaz. You can read about the other lists. I want to say we have a good chance of passing. I think it's a pity to vote for someone that might not pass. So I think we should all come together and vote for a party that can pass. And that's it. It's very, very easy. I want to say that because you are the amazing women that you are, and you gave an hour and you came to a Zoom meeting to hear about this evening, I'm sure you will all register. But I want you all to think about 5 more people, even more, okay? But we'll start with a minimum of 5 people that you can resonate this to, that you take the link that Gal put now in the chat, and we'll send it to you afterwards. And you take this link and you give it to your partners, to your children, to your neighbors, to your community members. saying, I heard this Tammy, she was super cool, and it's really important to vote because we need you. We need to vote. And we need you to make sure that you're our ambassadors to make this heard, because you've probably not heard about this till today, or probably not a lot of you have heard about this voice that you have. And it's a crucial voice. You have the opportunity to vote in a democratic system. You know, it's one of the most amazing things that we received as people in the modern world. Let's use it. Let's make our voice heard. So really register now, take this link, show people around you how easy it is and how important it is to vote, and then remind them in the 13th of July that, or whenever the elections is, that they need to vote at that day. So again, the link is in the chat. While you're voting, while you're registering, let's hear questions if you've got.
Yeah, if anybody has a question, first to thank you, Tammy, for being here today with us. And if anybody has a question regarding Tammy's personal journey and or anything regarding the election process of how this would affect what she has been doing so far, please feel free to ask. And thank you for sharing your story, your vision, your passion, and what it all means to us, and how this can affect our lives today and tomorrow very dramatically. And all that fight that you have been going for a very long time could be also affected. So thank you, and I leave the microphone or the chat open to questions.